Hello, hello, come on in and know me better, man, as the spirit once said. Close the door, take a seat by the fire, get a nice hot drink in your hands, maybe something lovely to nibble on, a mince pie or two or three. Season's greetings, Merry Christmas, and welcome back to Archaeosoup Towers for the Christmas special 2019. Now, it has actually been quite a good year here at Archaeosoup Towers. I've been busy, at times quite stressed, at times a little bit sad and depressed, I have to say. There's been an old one in some ways this year. There have been things happening every now and then. But I think broadly speaking, Mrs. Soup and I have had a lovely year. It has been a good year. And at the very least, hopefully you have good things to reflect upon as well from this year. But Christmas is undoubtedly, undeniably here. It is imminent. It is upon us, and I am feeling very Christmassy. And so it's time for our Christmas present, is it not? Because someone else has been having a good year this year as well, and that is my friend Marion. You may recall back in 2013, 6 years ago now, in fact, she first approached me asking for help and advice with a desk-based assessment ahead of potential excavation works in Santa's compound in Lapland. And initially we hypothesized that there might be, for example, evidence of a candy cane factory fire that happened in 1910 with a candy cane melt layer in the stratigraphy. And the following year, in 2014, we confirmed it. We found evidence of candy cane melt from the stratigraphy, and that was a real delight. Along with something that she's particularly proud of, that is the Santa's compound mechanism, as she's calling it. Essentially a wooden version of the Antikythera mechanism, a dendro technology instead of clockwork, I suppose you could say. In 2016, we were lucky enough to get our hands on a sample of unstratified ash, evidence of letters that were waiting to be reconstituted by a special machine at Santa's compound. And in 2017, we took a look at lots of this evidence under a microscope. In particular, I was really interested to find some evidence of, well, not artificial, but elf-created snow in the landscape surrounding the compound, a sort of form of landscaping, snowscaping, I suppose you could call it. I mean, I don't know. Is that a technical term? Maybe I've just added to the field of Santa archaeology right there. You're welcome, Marion. You're welcome. But nonetheless, over the past 6 years, this project has yielded undeniably exciting evidence for Santa and the elves and the whole way of life in the compound. And Marion has absolutely cultivated a very special working relationship with the whole community. She's essentially now the archaeologist in residence, with tremendous help from Mrs. Claus as well. She's the icing sugar that binds all of this together. So it's been really interesting to see that project proceed. And last year there was a bit of a hiatus, a technical problem that we shan't go into. If you want to take a look at that, if you want to actually, in fact, learn about all of this, check out the links at the end of the video and also in the video description. But this year, we're happy to report that Marion has, well, gone from the microscopic, as it were, to the macro, in the form of something that was discovered as part of ongoing modifications to the Reindeer landing area and also actually their stables. There was an old stable building that had to be demolished as engineering was proceeding, and Marion initially did a watching brief, then also did an excavation down to about 2 meters following an observation of what was there. And as part of those excavations, she came up with this. Now this absolutely is a macro find. It's really chunky. This is a piece of so-called tack, a bridle component, a curved bit made out of brass and nickel, and it's really exciting. It's direct evidence for how the reindeer were harnessed to the sleigh, how Santa and the elves worked with those animals at the time when the stable block was in use. This was found as part of an unstratified collapse within the stable, and so it's hard to date, but looking at the condition of this piece, it's not too corroded, and we do know the stable block was in use up until the 1980s, 1990s, early 2000s, thereabouts. So this thing here has provenance, but also this was in the mouth of a flying reindeer. How exciting is that? I'm a little bit giddy. I won't lie, and I promised to look after it and be careful with it. So don't worry, Marion. Don't worry. I'm not going to drop it. But even more excitingly, you don't have to rely on me to explain this, because Marion's working relationship now with the community is so good that she's been able to get a limited interview with the man himself, with Santa himself, and for privacy concerns and for other reasons, we're going to be obscuring him. So we're just going to, well, you'll see. You'll get a certain angle of Santa, but he, as it were, from the horse's mouth, can tell you about the reindeer and how for thousands of years now he's been working with those animals and what this represents.
Well, yes, of course I'll be checking it twice. I'll just need to do this first. Yes,
Just
okay.
give us 5 minutes.
Are we good to go?
Yes.
Yes.
Action.
Okay. Well, are these for me?
Yes, of course they are.
Oh, spectacular. What's this? Oh, sloe gin. Oh, you really do spoil me, Mrs. Claus.
She has impeccable taste, doesn't she?
Oh, thank you very much. Right, okay, so, are we ready?
Yes,
Okay,
go.
well, early bits, for the reindeer, of course, were made of rope, and occasionally we would employ a nose ring when there were only a couple of reindeer pulling the presents locally, you see. Oh, mince pie. Very well. You see, initially, we would scarcely be leaving the Arctic Circle, so just pulling the reindeer along with a rope and a nose ring was fine. Dasher was quite hard on the rope, I seem to recall, and one year, Carly, as she was called then, nibbled right through the bridle and went on a little adventure in the forest nearby. She actually was called Carly at that point because, well, her name changes, you see. This was the story.
Yes, we know.
Would you know that?
Yes,
No, but they don't know that.
but do they need to?
Well, it's fine. Anyway, but as the search proceeded, Finn, my sleigh elf turn for the year that year, came to a house in a clearing. He'd been following the hoof tracks carefully and knocked on the door, and inside was an old elf gentleman. He was a carpenter, I seem to recall, and his family, and they were getting ready for Christmas. And of course there was Carly nibbling on the wrapping paper. Now, not only did Finn find Carly, but he also discovered his future wife. And so Carly, of course, became Cupid. Bit of a matchmaker, you see.
Come on, crack on.
Anyway, sorry. Oh my. Oh, this is very nice.
Put the cracker down,
Oh,
man.
cockles. Oh. Ow. Wait.
Intercontinental
Oh,
delivery.
yes, sorry, yes. As the deliveries became intercontinental, there were more reindeer and more of a need for control. You see, I seem to recall that we experimented with hardwood. After all, elves will always look to work in wood first. Wood-based solutions for the win, yes?
Two woody rides.
But bone bits for a while were also experimented with before we settled on cast bronze and a solid bar design, a sort of a bit that was straight through the mouth and a little bit uncomfortable on the tongue, but at the time that was all we had. This shifted for a brief time, because I was concerned about the comfort of the reindeer, to a snaffle bit. This actually applies more direct pressure on the roof of the mouth in particular, and gives a little bit more room as it moves around in the mouth for the reindeer, to breathe and oh my, what's this? Oh, can you help me unwrap it, please?
Oh, give it here.
Sorry, it's a what? What? There's
It's a tea cake,
there's
you know, like
tea
tonics.
cake. A tea cake covered in chocolate. Well, nothing's bad when it's covered in chocolate. Let's have a look, shall we? Ah. Oh, no, mellow inside. Oh, you guys are amazing.
Thank you very much.
Anyway, sorry. Snaffle bit. More room in the mouth. Oh, sorry, a little bit more comfortable, I suppose. And also, this was a fashion thing, I seem to recall as well. I remember the elves were saying that we can't keep on using bar bits because it's just no longer done. It's not the dumb thing. So, we moved on. Yeah. However, the real problem came in the 15th century, when we began flying across the world to deliver presents. Yeah, the Americas and further afield. And flight put a tremendous strain on the bits and made the reindeer rather uncomfortable, not to mention the high altitude flight would have lots of airflow. There was lots of wind passing by, and it was harder to communicate with the reindeer. Yeah, they couldn't hear me saying, "On Dancer, on Prancer, on Carly." Yeah. Blitzen, of course, as well. Blitzen.
They know their names.
Sorry, what?
They know.
No,
the
I know,
names of the
I know, they
deers.
know, I know. Sorry, I'll stay on topic. So it was hard to communicate with the airflow of so high up. And so, subtle course corrections were quite difficult. Eventually, we decided on a curb, which is very similar to the design that you seem to have found, Marion. Yeah. Let's have a look at it. Yeah. Yeah. Well, the chain, of course, goes underneath the chin. Yes, it keeps the bit in place. After all, Cupid, because was an escape artist, needs to be quite tight there, I think. Yeah. There's an arch in the nickel as well, with the brass and nickel design, with the arch there to give a bit more room for the tongue to move. Comfort is always important, I think, for the reindeer, especially on the longer journeys that we do. Definitely. Of course, it's worthwhile saying that for trips into the village, the elves typically employ a neck bridle. It's an easier. Oh, hang on. It's easier on the deer to be steered by their neck, you see. The neck bridle, yes. Some people in Mongolia use that sort of thing, I seem to recall. But the elves, they love it. It's kind of like when they go for a pootle into town, the shopping, going to see their families, which of course at this time of year, they don't get to see much of their families because they're so busy.
Tell me about it.
But, we have all summer for that sort of thing. Right then, can I possibly plug a friend's business at this point?
Go on, but be quick.
Is that okay? Yeah, okay.
Yes.
If you're ever in Elf Town and have had a bridal snafu, that sounds like someone went missing from a wedding, doesn't it? A bridal snafu. You know what I mean, if your bridle is broken. Check out Ernie's Place. The best leatherwork and bridal adjustments for hundreds of miles. I mean, frankly, I think for thousands of miles, but he's far too modest for that sort of thing. Maybe I should give him an endorsement on his poster. On his posters, his business card. Do you have business cards?
Of course we do.
Does he? Okay, yes. Yeah, well, remind me. Obviously, I'm busy. Very busy. Oh, that's so nice. Anyway, so, yes, that's reindeer, bridles and bits and stuff. Is that everything? Are we done? Is that okay? Well, of course. Oh, yes, of course. Merry Christmas, everyone. Merry Christmas. No, I don't mean to impose, but do you mind if could I just, yes? Oh, well, and of course, yes.
How cool was that to hear from the man himself about this artifact and a working relationship that he's been cultivating with some very magical reindeer for a long time. Also, incidentally, thank you to the to the elf team for sending the footage over as well. That was very quick. Thank you. So it's a pleasure as always to hear from Marion, and this year to have something so evocative of Santa's annual trip, which also we must remember he doesn't make in one night. You know, different people get their presents on different nights in and around Christmas, and even into January, in fact. So the reindeer aren't working as hard as some people think, but they're still working very hard, flying a long, long way. And this bit balances, I think, that idea of communication while flying with comfort as well. The arch, in particular, makes this a more comfortable experience for the reindeer. I just wish I knew whose bit this was. If only they had a name written on it. Could it be Rudolph? Could it be Cupid? Could it be Blitzen? I don't know. But how cool. How cool is that? Incidentally, a little extra tidbit that I've learned while going back and forth with Marion and her team preparing for this year's Christmas special is that the word reindeer is not the word deer with a modifier on it, like, you know, rain or bridle or even precipitation deer, as it were. It's actually based in Old Norse. The word hrein, with a H on the front, was the word for reindeer in Old Norse, and actually deri is the word for animal. So hrein deri means reindeer animal, as it were. So hrein is reindeer, deri animal. Reindeer, reindeeri, reindeer animal. You know, every day is a school day, and also incidentally, just to confirm, reindeer and caribou are more or less the same thing. I did already know that. Peter Rowley Conway would have slapped me about the head. Well, he wouldn't, because obviously he's a professional, but you know what I mean, metaphorically, verbally, if I got that wrong. So yes, but it's just a little extra thing I thought you might appreciate. Also, I just want to say a thank you to my lovely friend and colleague, Rena Maguire. She has been a big help in preparing this year's Christmas special. She is actually an expert in bridal elements and tack and bits and things like that. Trying not to get the terminology wrong, because she was like, don't use the word tackle. Sorry. But she is an expert in that sort of stuff from the Iron Age onwards, and basically in general. You have to be an expert in general really to know what you're looking at. And she's been very helpful in preparing this as well, helping me to understand what I've been looking at, because Marion just sent it my way, and she's a very busy woman. So Rena stepped in and gave me a hand as well. Thank you very much, Rena Maguire. And thank you for watching. Thank you for watching throughout the year. Thank you for turning up for this Christmas special. And here's hoping that next year is a good year, and that we can all continue to learn together, to live together, and to have hope together. This is a season of hope, and let's carry it with us through into the new year. Now, of course, between now and the new year, you'll be getting the Watching Brief Festive Feast, but I figured this was a, heart-to-heart from me to you. So, Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Bye-bye.